a BonVision workflow usually starts with the CreateWindow node, which actually comes from the shaders package of Bonsai, and you can just drag it into the workflow. And by doing that, this node will take care of setting up an OpenGL dedicated window for you where all the stimuli will be presented. So if I just start my workflow now, you will get a empty black window where you can then render your stimuli. Now, this node already allows you to specify a lot of the properties about this window that are useful for setting up a visual stimulus rig. And the very first one, just looking here on the properties on the right, is the background color. So by default, it is black, but you can change it to any other color. For example, one that is very common to be used is just a gray background to set it as like a neutral intensity level. So if I change that color, then I will have now the background of my window be gray. The other things that are very useful here that I want to highlight is you can control where the window is displayed if you have multiple monitors on your computer. So by default, it will be shown on the middle of your primary display. But if you want, you can also indicate that you want it to be created in the middle of the first, the second, third, fourth, fifth, up to sixth displays that you have connected to your computer. And connected to that, I'm going to jump to the bottom of the properties to show you one more thing that is useful, is to control how the window is generated. So you can, if you start it the way I've been doing so far, you can specify the width and height of the window and even give it a title. But one thing that you can also do is set the window to be full screen. So if you go to the window state, you can control what is the initial state of the window you create. And sometimes, so if you do display a window in full screen, it will be filling your whole display. But sometimes one thing that can be useful if you need a window to span multiple displays is you might want to set the window border to hidden. And the reason why this is useful, I wanted to just briefly bring it up, is that you can also use it for situations where, for some reason, the full screen, if you have either an extended desktop with some kind of uneven configuration or some situation where you do need to stretch the window across multiple displays, that this can be one way to achieve that. Because in Bonsai, currently you can only create a single window to render your stimulus on. And the way to have that window span multiple displays is you either combine your displays into a single virtual screen, or if you cannot do that, you can just create your window with no border like this and configure the width and the height and where it shows up to have it span all your displays. And I guess one last thing I wanted to discuss is you can configure the render frequency and the update frequency of your window. And this will be how many frames per second you are aiming to display for your visual stimulus. By default, it's set to 60. But if you have a higher refresh rate display, you can change the parameter here, and you will get a higher frequency rendering. And the update frequency is an optional parameter that you can also set, that we will discuss later what the update loop is doing in connection with the render loop. But by default, if you don't say anything here, the update frequency will be set to be equal to the render frequency. But you can actually have it even be higher. So the update frequency can be actually higher than the render frequency, or lower. Okay. And I think these are the most important things. There are more details that you can look into the graphics mode and the render state, but with this you should be able to get started